Hi everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode in our Macbeth GCSE revision guide. I swear every time I try and say that title for any of my channels, I have to really think hard to get the right words out. Anyway, if you haven't seen any of the videos yet, what we're doing here is we're going through all of the key characters and themes within Macbeth. I'm doing this on Jekyll and Hyde and Lord of the Flies and Christmas Carol and Inspector Calls and poetry and English language as well. So if you haven't seen any of my other content, feel free to check out the channel, see if there's anything useful for you for these exams. We're going through key quotes, we're going through context, we're going through model paragraphs, we're going through model answers. Today's going to be a model answer. If you think this is useful content, please consider sticking around. And if not, well, good luck with your exams. And I hope that you find some content that helps you with that. So today we're going to be doing ambition in Macbeth. We're going to be doing this by looking at a model answer, which one of my students wrote probably a couple of years ago now. Honestly, it was, I have this document, which I will put in the description actually, called the Hall of Fame. I don't have that up right now. Oh, yes, I do. Well, I'm reading from it. So yeah, the Hall of Fame. I'll put the link in the description. So there's lots of model answers to all different parts of the exam. So if you've never seen this before, even if you're not one of my students, you can have access to this because it's open source. So feel free to check this out. You can't edit it, but what you can do is you can make a copy of it if you want to edit that and to add any notes that you want to it as well. So just feel free to check that out if you'd like. But yeah, we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about why this is such a great essay. I do believe it's a level 9 essay. I would personally give it, I believe, full marks, maybe 1 mark off of full marks, but we'll go through why I might take 1 mark off as we go through it. So let's dive in and let's hope that this really helps everyone watching. So initially, Macbeth's ambition is shown to be a confusing and unnatural force to him. For example, as shown in the extract, the quote, "This supernatural soliciting cannot be ill, cannot be good," demonstrates Macbeth's conflicted mindset. The use of the verb soliciting suggests the idea of obtaining the crown, and in Macbeth's case, using the unnatural dark forces and visions that the witches are offering him. The Latin origin of the word soliciting means to set in motion, which links directly to Macbeth, as the witches essentially set off his downfall and the king's regicide in motion, which spurred on his desire to commit murderous transgressions. The theme of good versus evil is highlighted again in the quote, "Doth unfix my hair," which suggests that Macbeth thinks that he is a brave, noble man, and that the fact that he thought about killing Duncan is fantastical. This links to the divine right of kings. Duncan is the rightful king, and despite Macbeth's hard efforts to try and take his position, Macbeth knows that what he is doing is immoral, shown through quotes such as, "Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek." The extended metaphor, vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls onto the other, alludes to a rider jumping on a horse and failing. Here, Shakespeare is trying to personify the horse as Macbeth, a strong, valiant creature of great perseverance on the outside, yet unstable on the inside without a direction of their own. Therefore, Macbeth's spur is his wife, Lady Macbeth, which conveys their relationship to the audience. So straight away, we just have this amazing paragraph. It does show how ambition is used in a particular way. It's confusing and unnatural to him at first. That's a good starting point because that's absolutely the truth. Macbeth does start as not a fallen character. He questions what he should do, but ultimately his ambition does get the better of him and he makes bad choices, which is a full arc, right? He's on a full arc. There's this really impressive moment of understanding that the word soliciting has an origin of setting in motion. I do not expect students to be able to break down the Latin origins of words. That's truly beyond definitely beyond GCSE and really beyond A level, honestly. So that's truly outstanding. If you happen to be a student that does Latin, or you happen to, know the what's called etymology of certain words, then it certainly doesn't hurt to put that in. But I wouldn't expect that level of detail from really, like I said, even an A level student, let alone a GCSE one. But he then explains how these quotes and this moment fit into other themes within the play as well. So he doesn't just talk about Macbeth's ambition, he talks about how it actually links into good versus evil in the play. That's really good. So if you can manage to talk about how one thing or detail of a character or theme affects another detail of a character or theme. So in this case, Macbeth's ambition links to this other theme. That's a huge win. It's mostly showing great knowledge of the text, great knowledge of the play, the characters, the themes, how they sort of interact with one another. So it's really, really good. And he's broken down his quotes beautifully as well. His name is Matthias. Matthias was the student that wrote this. Okay, so secondly, Macbeth's ambition is corrupted and pushed by Lady Macbeth. So again, we have this very clear point to start the paragraph. This is perfect. For example, she tells him to look like the innocent flower as a manipulative tool to change Macbeth's perspective of thinking. The use of the adjective innocent suggests that the idea that Macbeth needs to put on an honorable facade in order to avoid suspicion. So he's writing this beautifully as well, right? An honorable facade, just such good vocab choices in his writing here, which is really impressive to the examiner. The noun flower symbolizes purity. However, this is quickly contradicted by the use of the noun serpent. The serpent is a biblical reference linking the story of Adam and Eve's temptation, and it conjures deceitful connotations. The juxtaposition of the flower and the serpent is used to emphasize Macbeth's degree of deception. He has been corrupted by ambition and the strong underlying influence from his wife that he is no longer honored. In addition to this, Lady Macbeth uses language referencing nocturnal animals, for example, the owl, the serpent, and the raven, which parallels the witches who also guide and manipulate Macbeth. Symbolically, Lady Macbeth represents a fourth witch. Now that's really pushing his understanding of the play. That's really good. It's a sophisticated idea. It's not something that typically students talk about. We've also got, just to edit this a little bit and make it a little bit better, I do like the idea of explaining, furthermore, the use of nighttime predators may forebode the actions of the Macbeths, since they do all of their killing at night. They kill Duncan at night, they kill Banquo as it's getting to nighttime. They do all of their initial killing, should I say, at night. As their corruption, their ambition takes over more and more, they eventually graduate to even more emboldened evil of murdering Macduff's family in broad daylight. So there's a little bit of a development on his ideas. I really think that this just adds more detail to what he's already said, but I think he's already said a lot of really good stuff, in fairness. Okay, so thirdly, Macbeth's ambition appears to be part of his nature, without being steered by the witches even before having even met them. For example, he says, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." This quote is parallelism of the words of the witches in scene 1, fair is foul and foul is fair, suggesting that there is some mysterious subconscious link between Macbeth and the witches, partly exempting him from his bloodlust. However, this could also be interpreted as the witches just projecting elements of his inner psyche. He already has a tendency to be overly ambitious, and his hamartia has always been within him. In addition, this links to the idea that ambition is the original sin from both heaven and hell. Satan is expelled from heaven due to evil sins committed like envy and hubris, much like Macbeth, creating stichomythia and rivalry in God, paralleling Macbeth when he couldn't say amen. Now, this bit is the one bit that's a little bit awkward, because stichomythia is when you have like short, sharp exchange of dialogue between two or more characters. And so this is a technique that he really would have had to say where it was. So that bit's not quite right. I think he's just made a little mistake there. And that's the reason why I might not give him full marks, because I don't know if he means a different term here. I'm not really sure what he means here, but stichomythia would have to be he puts a little bit of dialogue and shows like really short, sharp exchange. There's loads of that in the play, but you have to say where it is. You can't just say there's stichomythia in the play somewhere, obviously. Like, that would be the same as saying there's a metaphor in the play. Obviously there is somewhere, right? But you have to say where and when and why it matters. The devil wasn't forced to commit these sins, just like Macbeth wasn't, but it was out of his own accord that he wanted to commit regicide. Despite the fact that the witches steered him into the path of fierce desire, they weren't the cause of the regicide, neither for the hallucination which his lust for power has manifested. The fact that Shakespeare has used the theme of supernatural here and several times during the play would have piqued the interest of King James I, who wrote a book about the supernatural called Demonology. And, man, I need to sneeze, but I can't. You know when you need to sneeze, but you can't get it out? And had a passion and interest about it. Good paragraph overall. The stick of Mythia thing was a bit of a mess up, but him talking about how there's this weird link between the witches and him is very perceptive, because literally Macbeth's first line in the whole play does link him directly to the witches. Whether that's to say that the witches have corrupted him, even subconsciously, that he doesn't realize, or whether it just suggests that the evil is already within him that the witches can bring out, open to interpretation. That's what he's done. I think that he's done a really good job there. Lastly, Macbeth's Ambition serves as a reminder to Jacobeans of the dangers of regicide and in staying moral as Christians. For example, Macbeth says, "Let not light see my black and deep desires." The light here symbolizes God, and it is Macbeth's attempt of hiding his evil actions from God, which the audience will soon find out is not possible, resulting in his death. The juxtaposition between the light and black connotes the theme of good versus evil, and also emphasizes how extreme and malicious Macbeth's desire is to kill, which would make the audience more on edge, as he is doing this in spite of God. The adjective black symbolizes death, but in Old English, it means to have authority. I didn't know that, or I maybe did when I read this essay 2 years ago and thought it was really good, but I had forgotten all about it. So that is truly perceptive as well. There you go. Make sure you use that, because that's awesome context. In Macbeth's instance, he feels like he needs ambition in order to have authority and become king, which inevitably breaks the great chain of being. God created this for society to have peace. However, once again, Macbeth is going against God. This would have given the audience at the time an example of an immoral person in society, and would have been a tool of persuasion to inform them about the risks and problems of defying religion. Linking to this, in Act 2, the porter says, "Faith, here's an equivocator who committed treason enough for God's sake, yet could not equivocate to heaven." This makes reference to the religious nature of the motivation of the conspirators in the Gunpowder Plot. Guy Fawkes, and his comrades intended to commit the sin of murder to secure greater favour for Catholics. This can be connected to Macbeth's ambition within the play. As he commits more and more tyrannical acts, he further endangers his ambition in holding the throne, which parallels the conspirators' killing in the Gunpowder Plot for treason, reasons of religious acceptance. Okay, so by far in this essay, this is the best context, right? So he has used some context throughout, which is good, but here he does a huge job of context. He still analyzes some great quotes, and he explains this bridge between Macbeth and real world events that were happening in the early 1600s. So he goes really deep into context and does a fantastic job of adding really good, deep, relevant context to this discussion. He talks about how black actually linked to having authority in Old English. I did not know that. As I said, like, maybe I knew that somewhere in the back of my head, but I don't teach that normally. So the fact that that's in there is a great additional thing to include in your essays. It's not a common bit of knowledge. It's not a common context that we teach as English teachers. So there you go. It's got very good points. It's got very good character explanation. It's got great analysis with terminology that backs up the analysis. It talks about how different characters and themes link together and the significance of that. And it has brilliant context. So it literally ticks all the boxes that you would need for a level 9. Just adding some tension by having a drink in the middle there. But that is why I would give it a level 9. And out of 30, I would give it 28 or 29. The one bit, as I said, where it's a bit of a slip maybe, is this whole thing about creating stick of Mythia, which is true in the play, but is not true where he's written this here. So this bit's a bit of a mess, just for a moment. But the ideas still within the paragraph are really good. So it doesn't take away from that. So yeah, that's a model paragraph, or sorry, a model essay. If you liked reading a high-level essay, please consider giving this a thumbs up or a comment. Any questions, comment below as well. And we'll do some more model essays. But yes, if you are sitting this exam this year, make sure that you either check out this Hall of Fame thing with some of these model essays, or be checking out model essays generally. Practice your essay writing as well. It's not enough just to read other people's great work. You need to then go through that process and write great work yourself. If you have a teacher that can look at it or a tutor, I encourage you to do that. If you don't, then make sure that you're actually trying your best to think about whether you've used good ideas, used good quotes, analyze those quotes, use terminology, use reader response, use context. If you're doing those things and you can read your work and actually see that you're doing those things, then you're going to be in a much better position. Shorter video today, but I think that's literally everything I wanted to cover on this essay. So hopefully that was useful, and I will see you in the next one.